everyone, I'm Trishala and I'm presenting our research on student experiences with GitHub and Stack Overflow on behalf of our research. In this presentation, I will begin with motivation for our research topic, followed by the goal of our research. Then I will go over the methodology, followed by the participation trends exhibited by our participants. And finally, I will discuss the barriers and benefits. Social platforms like these are formed for, by, and with people. These platforms thrive only when many people participate on them. New people means new ideas, more feedback, more perspective on different coding problems, and more validated solutions on these problems that are published on forums like Stack Overflow. Also, more people means more collaborations on new projects. We chose GitHub because it is very popular version control system with high collaboration rate among its users. It's widely used by computer scientists to store their work. Similarly, Stack Overflow is a popular Q&A website which is used extensively by developers to seek help with their programming issues. These platforms were an interesting choice to investigate student participation as they are a big part of their education and career. The goal of our research was to understand student interactions on GitHub and Stack Overflow, followed by identifying the barriers and benefits that students experience. We also provide a recommendation list for different stakeholders that can help in increasing participation of students on these platforms that we investigated. Moving on, we started with conducting semi-structured interviews with 20 participants enrolled in different degrees. These participants had different amount of work experience in software development industries. I was responsible for conducting the interviews over Skype. Each interview lasted for 60 minutes and was voice recorded. Then I uploaded the transcribed interviews on atlas.ti, a qualitative data analysis tool we use to code the data. I used 5 transcripts to create initial set of codes that I shared with my co-author, Adam. We used these codes on remaining transcripts and held regular agreement sessions to update the existing codes. Dr. Story, the third co-author of our paper, reviewed the final codes and we proceeded to the clustering process. Moving on, we clustered 41 codes to identify themes in our data that would later translate to barriers and benefits. We used Coggle.it, a collaborative text mapping tool to perform clustering process. In order to validate our clustering process, we created a handbook containing code clusters and shared it with other members of the research group. They coded 1 transcript each and placed the codes in the clusters that we defined in the handbook. We revisited the results that they sent us back and in order to note any discrepancies, but we did not note anything major. Finally, we obtained 7 barriers each for GitHub and Stack Overflow that are represented in these diagrams. The paper contains the details on each barriers along with corresponding codes. We have also placed example codes from the actual interviews that pointed to the existence of these barriers. We followed same steps to identify the benefits of participation. In the paper, we have also provided recommendations for different stakeholders on how they can help increase student participations on GitHub and Stack Overflow. Now I will briefly go over the findings of our study. We observed that 18 out of 20 students had an account on GitHub, out of which 14 participated actively. And for Stack Overflow, 12 students had an account, out of which 9 students participated actively. This shows that GitHub is a more popular choice among students when it comes to participation on such public-facing social coding platforms. Now we discuss the barriers to participation that students experience on GitHub. The first barrier that students experience is the lack of self-confidence regarding their programming skills and the projects they develop. Also, students prefer to stay in their comfort zone, which deprives them from the opportunity to collaborate beyond their known circles. Some students also indicated that collaborative development is not an activity of their interest, and they would never use these platforms outside school or job commitments. Students also tend to feel overwhelmed with their schoolwork and are not able to find time for using GitHub. Also, many students feel collaborating requires a lot of effort that they're not interested in putting. Students are also used to receiving incentives in return of developing code, such as grades when they submit an assignment. They do not see any direct incentive when they participate on GitHub, hence they avoid it. Lastly, some students find it hard to trust the coding skills of people they do not personally know. The barriers observed in Stack Overflow are Many students do not understand the community participation on Stack Overflow and avoid participating there altogether. Also, sometimes even if students come across a question they can answer, they do not post anything as they fear that their response will not help anyone. This indicates an underlying self-confidence. Some students also stated that they do not like sharing their knowledge on Stack Overflow as they do not care about helping others who could benefit from their knowledge, as they do not see Stack Overflow as a place to collaborate. When encountered with programming problems, many students type it on search engines and only access Stack Overflow if it is listed as a search results. Also, um, many students believe that there is a long waiting time to get their questions answered on Stack Overflow, and they are not willing to wait around, hence they do not post anything there. Many times, students do not feel very shy asking questions from strangers because of fear of judgment. And lastly, Stack Overflow is a platform that requires questions and answers to be in a fixed format, which feels like too much work for a lot of students, hence they avoid participating there. Now I'll discuss the benefits that students who actively participate on GitHub and Stack Overflow experienced. Firstly, students who were very active on these platforms indicated that they learned a lot from community members in terms of new styles of programming and how to develop projects collaboratively. Secondly, for those who publish projects in public-facing repositories on GitHub or those who answered questions on Stack Overflow, felt a lot of confidence in their personal skills. And lastly, many students indicated that they use a lot of resources on these platforms, and by participating, they get a chance to return to the community that has always helped them. With this, we come towards the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Yang from University of California, Irvine. Today, I will present our paper, Ideology in Open Source Development. Open source development is prevalent nowadays. It is not only a development process, but also a social movement, having profound impact in our society. Ideology plays a vital role in driving social movements, also affecting individuals' choices and decisions, like voting in an election. However, ideology in open source development has not yet received much attention. One of the major reasons could be the vagueness and ambiguity of the concept. So in this article, we attempt to clarify the concept in the context of OSS, argue the necessity of developing such empirical theory, propose a research agenda to establish a theory, and also discuss some implications when applying such theory in the future research. First is a brief history of ideology to learn how this concept and theory developed. French philosopher de Tracy first used the term ideology in his new project to analyze the ideas and sensations, and Napoleon criticized this concept and viewed it as a political threat. With the exploration and opposition, the term ideology started its fuzzy life. And Marx played a critical and unique role in the development of the concept. He learned the concept when he was in Paris and further developed it with multiple conceptions in his work, which makes ideology theory advance to a higher level. And in general, ideology refers to the prevailing ideas of an age. Ideology had a negative sense in most of Marx's work, and one of the major tendencies is the neutralization of the concept. And a lot of researchers and scholars propose various neutral conceptions of ideology. Since 1950s, the concept started gaining popularity in many social science fields, such as organizational ideology, which is relevant to our inquiry. And ideology could be approached by cognitive and social ways. Regarding the cognitive way, ideology captures the individual's ideas and beliefs. And the social way means ideology reflects a common interest shared by a group. Actually, the two ways reflect ideology at different levels. And then we could have a general definition of ideology, the basis of the social representations shared by members of a group. And then we have a brief literature survey on ideology-related work in software engineering. We select the papers published on 4 top-tier venues between 2016 and 2020, and then manually review and select the relevant paper based on the title, abstracts, and keywords. Then we have 190 related papers. With the selected papers, we would like to gain insights from 3 aspects. First is about the defining ideology. Among all selected papers, none of them explicitly mention the notion of ideology nor defines it in software engineering, but they touch on some elements of ideology and offer partial knowledge. Second is the overall trend. The numbers of papers are increasing over the years, indicating growing research interest, but they only account for about 7%, suggesting large gaps are still existing. And third is about the research focus. The research focuses are diverse. Some papers focus on individuals or organizations, like gender diversity, while other papers focus on artifacts generated in every phase of the development. And we found almost one-third of papers target OSS in their study. But all these papers are just knowledge fragments regarding ideology and unable to connect individuals, organizations, and society together. Therefore, a theoretical framework is necessary to develop deep understanding of OSS ideology. The first step of investigating any social construct is to define it. In the context of open source development, ideology could be defined as the basis of social representations regarding OSS development shared by the members of OSS community, which the social representations could be values, norms, activities, knowledge, and so on. Then we also need a framework to organize the elements of ideology, and we employ a six-aspect framework proposed by Van Dyck. To establish such empirical theory, the two-pronged approach is used in the extant literature, but it has several limitations. And then we propose our approach based on grounded theory. First, we randomly select a diverse sample of OSS contributors and collect their narratives related to ideology through semi-structured interview. Then we analyze the collected data with coding and a comparative method. It is an iterative process. We will move back and forth between the theory and data until theoretical saturation. If the empirical theory is established, it will have significant implications to the research and practice of OSS development. First, regarding the theoretical implications, the empirical theory could be used as a terminological system that facilitates interdisciplinary research. Then, as historical artifacts, it provides a snapshot of the ideology in OSS movement, and as a methodological shift that reflects the interests of a majority in open source community. Then the empirical theory could help us better understand open source movement at different levels, including individuals' decisions, actions, and the collective dynamics in the project teams. Moreover, it also has some practical implications that could benefit practitioners, community, and society. In this article, we argue the necessity of establishing an empirical theory of OSS ideology and present an approach for achieving such a goal. First, we present a brief history of ideology and its theory in social sciences. Then we have a brief literature survey about the ideology-related work in SE. And then we propose our agenda for developing an empirical theory of OSS ideology. And we also discuss various implications when applying such theory in the future research. Our next step is following our research agenda to develop such theory. That's all, and thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bruno da Silva, and within 3 minutes, I'm going to talk about this work I've been doing with students at Cal Poly. Our work focuses on analyzing pull requests coming from all types of authors, from core contributors to first-time PR creators. And we concentrated on rejected PRs only because we are interested on understanding PR rejection reasons in a qualitative way. This is the second iteration of our research. So this year we grew our data set and changed our research questions a bit, and we manually analyzed the 605 rejected PRs from these two open source projects, ESLint and Haxel. And we had two researchers, co-authors of this work, and have experience in the software development industry doing the manual analysis. I worked as the supervisor / moderator in ensuring the process had been followed, and more details about the process in the paper or during Q&A. As of the results, for the most frequent reasons why PRs got rejected. We found that PR reattempts was the most frequent rejection reason in Haxel. PR reattempt is the label we use it for when the PR author has agreed to readdress the changes in a new PR. So reviewers then reject the PR hoping for a new one. And several PRs are rejected when authors don't follow up with comments or changes. And several PRs are also rejected due to authors implementing unnecessary functionality. And for YesLand, we found that lack of team consensus bubbled to the top. Lack of team consensus is when the reviewers could not come to an agreement on accepting the change. And they applied this policy of rejecting when there was no consensual agreement toward acceptance. Then unnecessary functionality was also in the top 3 reasons for rejection in YesLand. And PR conflicts is the first and the third most frequent reason we found in YesLand. So PR conflict is when the rejected PRs, when they rejected PR conflicts with one or more PRs under review down the pipeline. Now for the second research question, is noted the size, scale, and popularity of these 2 projects changed significantly. As a result, most of the differences in PR rejection reasons stem from their distinct project size, popularity, and consequent level of organization for managing PRs. YesLand has a much bigger influx, and they are still a small team, so they have to follow strict guidelines, and they clearly had less time and reviewer resources to guide authors towards PR acceptance. And we noticed that the only common reason among the top 5 reasons in both projects was necessary functionality, which is also consistent with other works in this area. For research question 3, we took also the chance to look at our rejection reason ranks and check in what positions code quality issues would appear. And we found that none of the code issues raised it to the top in both projects, as you can see highlighted in the screen. So with that, I conclude my presentation. Please reach out to chat if you have any questions or comments, and thanks for watching.